our special invited speaker this week, Dave Fiedler. Some of you have read the book The Sozo in the past or the book Tremble. He is the author of both. I had the privilege of hearing elements of what's going to be shared this afternoon at some years ago at Southern Adventist University. It was a huge blessing. But it required some submission to allow God to open our eyes to things that have been promised to happen here in the near future, even within our church. So those who are attending but are not aware of what all we have going on today, I'm going to say one more time. After potluck, everybody's invited to stay for potluck, but after potluck there will be a two-part seminar. But right now we're doing the second part. This morning he shared principles of the great controversy and how it started in heaven with Lucifer, and now we're going to transition over to God's response to that rebellion. So Dave, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay. This morning we talked about Lucifer, but he doesn't get to steal the whole show. I left you, well, let me just notice the subtitle here. Lucifer, the subtitle was, try something new. And for Christ, the subtitle is, let me show you. And I think you'll understand a bit, in a bit, why that's important or how that's important. We closed this morning with a list of accusations. These are the complaints that Lucifer registered against the government of heaven at the time of his rebellion there, just prior to the creation of earth and all that followed after that. Here's the list. If you didn't see it, I'll let you read through it on your own in just a moment. But we're back to politics. And in politics, one of the things that they deal with is debate. You're going to have a debate with your opponent at some point or the other. And so there are people that have spent their whole lives studying debate. In the process of, you can get a PhD in debate. Whatever. Anyhow, you can do that. And they've broken it all down. They've mastered the science of this and that and the other thing. And along the way, one of the interesting things that they deal with is the question of logic. Now, it sounds good. You'd like to think there was a little bit of logic in politics. Somewhere. But they've developed these rules of formal logic. How you make your argument, how you respond to arguments, all that sort of thing. And they've come up with what they call logical fallacies. These are deceptions that people, advertisers, politicians commonly use to make you come to a wrong conclusion. It's a fallacy. It's not accurate. And some of these are actually kind of cute. Won't go into all those, but there's no. This is a fascinating thing that I wouldn't get a PhD in it, but you can take half an hour sometimes to read about it. You might find it interesting. So one of the fallacies is called poisoning the well. Let me illustrate it. Suppose that right here I am candidate A. And we're in Plainfield, right? Does Plainfield have a mayor? You have a mayor? No. Do you got to have a mayor? I don't know if they do, but we'll just elevate Plainfield up to the level where they have a mayor. Now let's just say that I'm running for mayor. I'm candidate A running for mayor. And over here, I'm candidate B running for mayor. And we're going to have a debate, you see? And so candidate A gets to speak first. And he stands up and he says, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so thankful that you have such a strong civic spirit. You have so much interest in the prosperity of your community that you would come out to learn the issues that separate me from my opponent. But before we begin, there's something I have to tell you. It's very important that you understand this, or you might be confused into the whole thing. My opponent is a notorious liar. You can't believe anything that he says. That is poisoning the well. You don't know now whether you can believe anything that candidate B has to say. Well, so candidate A gets his 10 minutes. Candidate B finally gets his chance to turn. What's the first thing he's going to want to say? I am not a liar. Candidate A breaks the rules and says, he just lied. He's supposed to keep his mouth shut. He just lied. The upshot of this is that once your honesty has been called into question in the minds of the populace, nothing you say counts. You cannot proclaim your innocence. So what does candidate B have to do? Nothing he says is going to remove from him the, what's the word I want? The aura of being possibly a liar. When your honesty is questioned, there's only one thing you can do. You have to show. Anybody remember show and tell? Kindergarten? Okay? It's not show and tell anymore. It's show. Because telling doesn't work. Notice accusation number 9 on the list. God is lying about all of the above. At that point, the rules of logic, the rules of rational minds, and the angels have rational minds, to any angel who had any doubt that Lucifer might be correct, nothing God would say from there on was conclusive. You can't tell it. You got to show it. So that's why the subtitle was, let me show you. So, what's God going to do? What is God going to do about these accusations? These accusations, not just in heaven, this is the whole universe now. Everybody's heard this. What is he going to do? Well, how shall the universe know that Lucifer is not a safe and just leader? To their eyes, he appears right. They cannot see as God sees beneath the outward covering. They cannot know as God knows. Then to work to unmask him and make plain to the angelic host that his judgment is not God's judgment, that he has made a standard of his own and exposed himself to the righteous indignation of God, would create a state of things which must be avoided. God couldn't do that. It must be avoided. God desired that a change take place, and that the work of Satan be brought out in its genuine aspect. But the exalted angel standing next to Christ was opposed to the Son of God. The underworking was so subtle that it could not be made to appear before the heavenly host as a thing that it really was. Remember in the first meeting I mentioned that there are some things God cannot do. This was one of them. At that time, he could not make the reality of sin apparent to the angel. He couldn't do it. Satan could not be presented to the universe at once in his real character. His crooked course must be allowed to continue until he should reveal himself as an accuser, a deceiver, a liar, and a murderer. Now I want you to notice something. where does the damage to Satan's cause come from? Look at the last sentence. Himself. God is not, in one sense, and don't get too dogmatic, but in one sense, God is not fighting Lucifer. He's fighting for truth. The damage to Lucifer's cause is all self-inflicted. It's all friendly fire. Satan had disguised himself in a cloak of falsehood, and for a time it was impossible to tear off the covering so that the hideous deformity of his character could be seen. He must be left to reveal himself in his cruel, artful, wicked works. Now, impossible is a word that we don't commonly link to God very much, right? We're not used to saying, oh, God just couldn't do that. But here it's true. At that time, it was impossible. Now, God was doing the work to make it possible, circumstances, developments, etc., but it was impossible at that time. Notice I'm sorry, this print is a little bit smaller. I'm formatting for a smaller screen. Can you read that? We could move it a little closer or something, and I'm flexible. I just want to make sure you can process it. And also, I might say that anybody that wants any of this material, I'd be happy to give it to you as PDFs. Send me an email or something like that, and I'll send it to you. Okay. But notice in the second line there, he, Satan, must. It's kind of interesting. We have things that are impossible for God to do, and then we have things that God must do. We're not really used to applying either. God, you've got to do that. No, we don't. Well, sometimes we do in our prayers, and that's a little misguided, perhaps. But we don't usually think of things that God has to do. I mean, he's good. He's free to do what he wants, pretty much. But no, there's things he must do. Notice this. God's purpose is to place things upon an eternal basis of security. Time must be given for Satan to develop the principles which were the foundation of his government. The heavenly universe must see worked out the principles which Satan declared were superior to God's principles. God's order must be contrasted with Satan's order. The corrupting principles of Satan's rule must be revealed. The principles of righteousness expressed in God's law must be demonstrated as unchangeable, perfect, and eternal. Notice how often she says this. And notice what it is that God must do. Satan must be allowed to develop his principles. The universe must see that God's plan must be contrasted. It must be revealed. It must be demonstrated. Everything on this list is a matter of perception. We are blind. We must see these things. The universe could not see them. The universe must see them. We must learn something along the way. I was a teacher for 20 years, so I'm kind of a fan of education. It seems like it's a good idea to get smarter than you were once before, But there's things that must be taken in. This is important. I believe that in the battle of good versus evil, Lucifer has a whole bunch of different tactics. God has one. There's only one thing that God does. He reveals the character of the Father. That is his one-size-fits-all, this is how we defeat rebellion. So there's two things. You want to just kind of keep this in mind. God does one thing, and that is reveal his character. Because his character has been attacked, right? God, Lucifer said, God, you're selfish, you're proud, your law is the reflection of your character, and your law is defective, so obviously your character is defective. So God is simply revealing the character of his Father. He can't proclaim it. He has to reveal it. Meanwhile, Lucifer is doing all these other things, whatever, all these different techniques and tactics that he's got. But the net effect of all Lucifer's effort, the end result is he discredits himself. It's an interesting war we've got going on. The unfallen world saw that the character of God could be vindicated only through this trial and conflict of the two forces. The attributes of God must be made to appear. Of the stability of his government, there must be no question. The angels knew this. The universe knew this. They could see probably more clearly than we could. This is what it's going to come to. God had, and there's an interesting thing about the great controversy. In some way or the other, it's set up as an all or nothing battle. There's some interesting details on this. God has said the entire universe will agree with me. And Lucifer has said the world will agree with me. Lucifer's got kicked out of heaven. All he claims right now is this planet. All he wants is uniformity of acceptance of his principles on this planet. If he gets 100% here, the process says it would become his kingdom. God, on the other hand, is working for the whole universe. He's going for 100% of the whole universe. Which is why every knee will bow, every tongue confess, even the guilty, even the wicked. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess. Just and true are their ways, Lord God Almighty. Only then does he win the game. When it's all over, when there's complete unanimity. So he's got to convince the entire universe that only his government is what they want. That's the only thing that they want. How hard is that? You know? We look at it as well. There's God's plan and there's Satan's plan. But, life doesn't really work that way. If somebody wants a speed limit of 65 and somebody wants a speed limit of 35, there's 30 other nice numbers in between. Maybe the speed limit should be 37. Down in Oklahoma City, where I lived for 10 years, they're doing it. Maybe they're done by now, I hope. But, for years, they were working on the interchange of I-35 and I-40. And you get a ton of vehicles going through both of those every day, so they could never just shut it down. So they're always building these weird bypasses so they could, temporary bypasses so they could work on the section they were working on. And they had these signs up, it says construction zone, speed limit 50 miles an hour, or 55 or something like that. Trying to slow everybody down a little bit. Everybody go through it something. Just and they tried different things. They tried giving out all sorts of tickets, and that didn't work well. And they tried this, they tried that. They put flashy lights, and now they slowed down. And then some genius came along. And they changed the sign. Construction speed. Speed limit 53. What? 53? What is 53? Slam on the brakes, everybody's cool, creeping through. What? 53? What is this? It worked. That was kind of weird. Okay, so here's my point. We think this is God's plan, this is Satan's plan. Well, even if Satan discredits himself, there's still a lot of people out there in the universe, or people in a kind of generic sense, I don't really know what they call themselves, but there's a lot of unfallen beings out there in the universe. What are the odds that somebody, somewhere, might come up with an idea like, well, that whole thing that Satan, Lucifer had, that was really messed up. We don't want to do that, And God said this, but I think we ought to do this. I think we ought to do this. Not Satan, but that was extreme. No, it's not that. But maybe here, or maybe here, or maybe here. And God says, no, it's over here. This is the only one you really want. How do you get everybody to say, that's the only one we want? We don't want any of this. We want that. How do you convince them? Well, there's really only one way to do it. You're thinking politics. How do you win an election? You convince the people they're better off under you than they are under the other guy. Sometimes you just make all sorts of stupid promises that you can never fulfill, and that might work. That's been done. On occasion. Okay? God has to demonstrate that he's going to do more for the universe than anyone else is willing or capable of doing. How do you do that? How do you do that? no verbal description could reveal God to the world. Notice the goal, to reveal God to the world. That's the only thing he does, is he reveals the character of the Father. No verbal description can do it. You can't do it with words because Lucifer says you're lying. You can't use words. No verbal description could reveal God to the world through a life of purity, a life of perfect trust and submission to the will of God, a life of humiliation such as even the highest seraph in heaven would have shrunk from. God himself must be revealed to humanity. And remember, story of redemption, it says that when God the Father, God the Son had that council and they came out and they announced that Christ would become human and would die, the angels said, no, let me go. Right, remember that? They didn't know what they were talking about. They didn't know what they were talking about. If they had known what they were talking about, they would have shrunk from it. They wouldn't do that. So Jesus says, this is what I'm going to do. This is how far I'm going to go to help my people. This is how far I'd go to help you. If you were in need, this is how far I would go to help you. Anybody else want to do that? Any takers? Question?
Oh, nothing.
No? Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? No, anybody else willing to do that? And as they came to understand more and more what it was involved, they would shrink back from it. This is the only way that you get to be the go-to man that everybody says, you know what? I want to be under his government. I don't care. I don't care if there's any other candidates. I want to be under his government. And God's going to do that to the whole earth agrees. Okay, going on. This is why we have verses like this. He saw that there was no man and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore, his own arm brought salvation for him. His own righteousness. It's the same. No one else could do what Jesus could do. That was reveal the Father under the ultimate stress and duress and sacrifice that Satan was going to impose upon him. How important is this? This is like really important. Look, without the correct knowledge of God, the human family would be divested of all divine strength. Stop for just a moment. What does the word divested mean? Not a real common word. Is it? Stripped of. Yeah. You may have heard of, a bunch of college students get all upset about something or other, and they say that, our university must divest itself of all investments that do business with Israel. Say that's a common thing, right? You've heard that? Pay attention to that kind of stuff? Okay. It means strip it out. Strip it out. Without the correct knowledge of God, the human family would be stripped of all divine strength. With false attributes kept before the mind as belonging to God, the human family would be the dupes of satanic lies and the subjects of satanic agencies. Stop for a moment. You gotta love her vocabulary. For a third grader, she's doing pretty well here. What is a dupe? Anybody know what a dupe is? Not a real common word anymore. A fool. Where does the word dupe come from? Do you know what duplicity is? Has the same root word as duet. Okay? A duplicitous person is one who is two-faced. When I'm talking to these guys over here, I say this. But when I'm talking to these guys, I say that. That's duplicitous, like a duo, a duet type of thing, okay? And a dupe is someone who falls for duplicity. Make sense? You with me on that? Okay. With false attributes kept before the mind, we would be the dupes of satanic lies and the subjects of satanic agencies. And he, Lucifer, could practice upon their credulity with success. Man, all the words. This is a great statement. What is credulity? The synonym for credulity. Today we probably use the word gullibility. Credulous, you've heard of incredible, or incredulous. Credit, as in you can't credit what the guy is saying, you can't really believe him. So credulity is believing that which should not be believed. It's being gullible. We'd be sucked in. That's what it boils down to. Without the correct knowledge of God, we're toast. That's what it boils down to. You see why it's important? The one thing that God does is He reveals the character of the Father. Christ loves the human race and has expressed this love in every action of His life. He said it too, but the words didn't really count. It was the actions. You got to see it. Every act of Christ's ministry was far-reaching in its purpose. It comprehended more than appeared in the act itself. There's more going on. God's not playing this thing on the surface. There's some depth to this battle. Lucifer he never plays 1D2, so it's a tricky thing going on here. A wise purpose underlay every act of Christ's life on earth. Everything He did was important in itself and in its teaching. Everything He did. Were the mind of man capable of understanding His dealings, every act of His, Jesus' earthly life, would stand forth important, complete, and in harmony with His divine mission. Okay. What was the divine mission? Reveal the character of the Father. Everything that He did was to reveal the character of the Father. Jesus came to earth to teach men how to live a life of self-denial and self-sacrifice, and how to carry out practical religion in their daily lives. He labored constantly for one object. All His powers were employed for the salvation of men, and every act of His life tended to that end. Okay, now hang on just a second, because a moment ago I said that His one thing was to reveal the Father. And here it says He was there to save men. Saving men is done through the revelation of the Father. You with me on that? Okay? And notice, up at the beginning of the second quotation, Jesus came to teach men how to live a life of self-denial and self-sacrifice. But then it says His one purpose, constant for one object. His one object was the salvation of men. So why is He teaching them how to live lives of self-sacrifice and self-denial if His one object is to save them? Because lives of self-denial and self-sacrifice are part of the salvation process. That's why. Okay? We'll see more. Hang on, let's just go. The great object that brought Christ to the earth was to reveal the Father. God is love. This was the great truth that Christ came to the world to reveal. The object of Christ's mission a mission to the world, was to reveal the Father. In all His ministry, all His self-denial and self-sacrifice, Christ's object was to reveal God to the world. This thought is common. We went a few here to get the idea across. Christ exalted the character of God, attributing to Him the praise and giving to Him the credit of the whole purpose of His own mission to earth. What is that line right there called? Right after the word earth. Can you tell me what that line is called?
Dash.
A what?
A dash.
It is a dash. What kind of a dash? Any topographers here? I used to teach it. I'm sorry. It's just too much fun. I can't do this. That's an M dash. It's called an M dash because it's the same width as a capital M. They also have N dashes, which are the same width as a capital N. But they're used differently. And then they've got the little ones called hyphens. Let me just give you something, a quick tip on your English right here. Hyphens are used to hyphenate words. Makes sense, right? Okay? That's what you use hyphens for. You don't use hyphens for other things. You use hyphens to hyphenate words. You use an N dash to replace the word to. So if I say January-June, January to June, that dash should be an N dash. Okay? And on your cool little computer keyboards, there's special ways to put that in there. Okay? You use the M dash kind parentheses, but it's not as much of an interruption in the flow of thought. It's to set off an idea by itself, usually in what we call apposition. Okay? Anyhow, let's go on. So here it is. Apposition means it's a restatement. If I said, Tom, comma, Fred's brother, comma, went to town. Who is Tom? Fred's brother. Okay? That rephrasing there in apposition is a restatement of who Tom is. Okay? Sorry for the English, but let's just deal with this here now, right? Christ gives God the Father all the credit of his whole purpose, the whole purpose of his own mission on earth, dash, rephrasing, to set men right through the revelation of God. That was the whole purpose of Christ's mission on earth, was to set men right through the revelation of God. Okay? And then while we're on the English strip, what are those dots called? An ellipsis. There you go. Okay. That means there's more to come. So let's go look at that. When the object of his mission was attained, dash, the revelation of God to the world, that's a restatement. She's making this point really strong here. Now, 2 times the same paragraph. His purpose was to reveal God to the world. When that was attained, the Son of God announced that his work was accomplished and that the character of the Father was made manifest to men. When was that announcement made? What was it? What he said? It is finished. The revelation of the character of the Father required everything right up to and through the cross.
Amen.
He endured the cross, despising the shame. That's how you reveal the Father. God sent his Son into the world to reveal, so far as could be endured by human sight, the nature and the attributes of the invisible God. You know, I'm fascinated because there are commonly, in Ellen White's portrayal of this, there are commonly indications of extreme precision going on. This is not just, let's just solve the problem, yeah. No. This thing is right, bam, 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 just very precise. Notice here, the indication of precision in this statement. He came to reveal so far as could be endured by human sight, the nature and attributes of the invisible God. In other words, if you went a little bit further, it was going to be unendurable. That happened a few times. When he cleansed the temple, he just stood on the steps. He had this little whip thingy in his hand. He never hit anybody. And divinity flashed through humanity. And all the priests and rulers and the sellers and money changers and whatnot, it's like, whoa. They ran. It happened again, it happened several times. It happened again on the night of his arrest. Remember, Judas walk comes up, Judas kisses him, right? A little hypocritical there, thank you. And Jesus says, whom seek you? Jesus of Nazareth. He said, I am he. And right at that point, an angel went between him and the crowd and just, it wasn't his divinity. I guess it was the angel that time. I'm sorry, but that's how I messed it up. Anyhow, but the angel flashed a little divinity, or a little glory, divine glory, or heavenly glory, something. I don't really know the categories. I'm not that much of an authority, I'm afraid. And they all fell to the ground. Remember that? Okay. This thing of displaying his glory is something that has to be handled with a careful touch. Look at this next thing. Christ revealed all of God that sinful human beings could bear without being destroyed. We're trying to take these people, we're trying to save them from their sins, but you know what? They're still sinners at this point. We've got to be careful we don't fry their brain circuits in the meantime. Okay? There's some real precision going on here in this thing. Christ is the perfect representation of the Father. His life of sinlessness, lived on this earth in human nature, is a complete refutation of Satan's charge against the character of God. Remember the accusations against the character of God? Christ's life was the refutation of those accusations. He was here for a purpose. This was a direct response. And as you go through the life of Christ, you can see item after item after item, down the line, where what he did, the way he set things up, was a direct refutation of the charges of Lucifer. Okay. Ellen White calls this a perfect representation. Jesus wasn't the Father, but he was a representative of the Father, and it was a perfect representation. How perfect is perfect? Well, pretty perfect. Had God the Father come to our world and dwelt among us, veiling his glory and humbling himself that humanity might look upon him, the history that we have of the life of Christ would not have been changed in unfolding its record of his own condescending grace. In every act of Jesus, in every lesson of his instruction, we are to see and hear and recognize God. In sight, in hearing, in effect, it is the voice and movements of the Father. If 3 weeks before the conception of Christ in the womb of Mary, I suppose, I guess that's where you have to date it from, I don't know. If 3 weeks before the Father and the Son met in heaven and they just said, hey, let's shake this thing up a little bit. You stay over. It wouldn't have made any difference. It would have been the same. Perfect is perfect. This is why Jesus said what he said. Right? He was seeing me, he was seeing the Father. How do you say, show us the Father? Philip, come on, yeah. And they only did 3.5 years, and everything I've done is the Father. Yeah, amen. That's good. Thank you. Jesus could not express in words to the understanding of man the love of the Father. He could only say, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. Those are good words. They're blessed words. They're wonderful words of life, if you like the song. They're not enough. The most famous verse in the Bible, not enough. That's all Jesus could do through words. Paragraph goes on. But he did express the love of God in his actions. Words are relatively cheap. Right? You heard the expression, words are cheap? Okay. What strikes me as odd in all this is how little we focus on this work of revelation. We get some kind of weird, fragmented ideas of what Christ was doing when he came here. You know, like, he did this, he did that, he did that. Well, yeah, he did different things, but everything he did was a revelation of the Father, right? It's like we emphasize the cross, which is good, but we don't commonly emphasize the cross as the revelation of the Father. We see it in some other way in solving the problem. Ellen White calls it the whole purpose of Christ's mission to earth. And yet, the Savior of the world devoted more time and labor to healing the afflicted. I should have read that before, sorry about that. The Savior of the world devoted more time and labor to healing the afflicted their maladies than to preaching. The preaching is good. Some of us do it on occasion. Nothing wrong with preaching. It has its place. But it can never do what actions can do. It's just the truth. Jesus figured that out. So he spent more time healing than he did preaching. Put your time and effort into the thing that gets you the most return. It's kind of obvious. Christ came to this world for no other purpose than to display the glory of God, that man might be uplifted by its restoring power. We fail, I think, to grasp the power, the restoring power of this revelation. We need to see God as he is, and in that experience of seeing God, it changes us. Let's go. Christ revealed to God to his disciples in a way that performed in their hearts a special work such as he has long been urging us to allow him to do in our hearts. I wish I understood all that. It's a great statement. I wish I understood it in practice and could say, this is exactly how to do that. I don't know that. I'll just be honest. I don't know how to do that and fulfill it in totality. I'm working. I hope you are. I suspect you are. We may have different words for it, different understanding of it, but the Lord, the Spirit leads us all in the same direction, and I trust that he's leading you. In passing, we need to notice one particular aspect of Christ's dealing with Judas during his time on earth there. This statement here, next statement, comes from a time late in Christ's ministry. Had Christ unmasked Judas, this would have been urged as a reason for the betrayal. And though charged with being a thief, Judas would have gained sympathy even among the disciples. The Savior reproached him not, and thus avoided giving him an excuse for his treachery. Now that was smart. But every course of action that we choose, even wise actions, they have repercussions. Things come as a result. My question here is, this policy that Jesus had toward Judas, how did that affect the other disciples? How did they regard Jesus? Now, Jesus said quite a few things like this. He said, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He never said anything like that about Judas. On the night of the Last Supper, when Judas left, the other disciples said, I don't know, maybe he's going to go buy some food. This is important. We notice this. Remember the statement from the first presentation. The Lord allowed the apostasy to develop in heaven before anything was done to help the other nations. Same thing with Jesus and Judas. I think we're developing a pattern here. It's one we ought to be aware of. Okay. Jesus' life of sinlessness lived on this earth in human nature is a complete refutation of Satan's charge. We read that before. But Jesus was working out this master plan and receiving all these accusations. Okay? So let's look at the accusations again. Pull these up. There they are. God said the only way to deal with these accusations was through the process of demonstration. Okay, fair enough. How's that working out? Right? How did things look at the time of Christ's ascension? Right? So he's come, he's lived, he's died, he rose again, spent 40 days, he's gone back to heaven. Right at that point, how are we doing? How's progress here? Okay? What about the first two claims? Angels are holy by nature, wise enough to govern themselves. They don't need God's. The rest of the universe. Now, human beings, we are traditionally the last ones to catch on. Okay? Oh, we're hampered by the fact that we've only got about 70 years to figure things out. Okay? But the rest of the universe has been watching this whole thing from the beginning. So, in the minds of the rest of the universe, where do we stand at the time of Christ's ascension? Anybody going to buy accusation number 1? Angels are holy, they're always going to do good things. No, Lucifer just crucified Christ, who was innocent. And incidentally, it was not until the crucifixion that Lucifer was revealed as a murderer. Why is that? That seems a little strange. You know, I mean, it's like, what about Abel, right? He got murdered. It'd been 4,000 years, give or take, the time frame there. You know, how many people have been murdered in the 4,000 years? How come Satan didn't get stuck with that rap? It wasn't until the crucifixion that he was revealed as a murderer, says that in Fire of Ages. Satan had to dodge, a perfect dodge. All those murders, he could say, hey, don't blame me. It's God's law that says sinners have to die. You may recall I told him he ought to change that law, but he hasn't. Don't blame me. I mean, you can quibble about whether we should use a lethal injection or a gas chamber or hang them or an electric chair or whatever other creative options you come up with. You can quibble about how it's been done, but it's God's law that says they have to die. Don't blame me. And that carried weight. Up until the crucifixion. Why did the crucifixion change it? He wasn't a sinner. He wasn't a sinner. For the first and only time in all eternity, a sinless being died. Ain't going to happen again. Never happened before. And when Lucifer crossed that line, that snapped it, right? Saturday says the last link of sympathy. Now that's not necessarily, oh, poor Lucifer sympathy. There's that kind of sympathy. But there's also the, I don't know, he's got a point. Kind of an intellectual sympathy. I think it takes in both of those. The last link of sympathy was broken with heaven when Lucifer murdered Christ. So, number one is gone. Number two, God was unfair when he exalted Jesus above Lucifer. I think the rest of the universe would say, you know what, Jesus actually was above Lucifer. Lucifer has some really bad ideas. So, I'm going to take the first two off the list. What about 2 and 3, or excuse me, 3 and 4? What about 3 and 4? God is proud, God is selfish. Anybody believing that now after the crucifixion? No. They're gone. God's law is defective and needs to be changed. Nobody can keep it. Now, some things are best refuted by simple demonstration. Okay? So, suppose I told you that I can actually bench press 400 pounds. Some of you might look at my somewhat scrawny physique and question the veracity of my statement. But if we had the piano bench and we brought it over here and we pulled out the bar and everything, and I did it, the official term for that is nah. I did it. Now, I have a bad attitude, of course, which is why I would say nah. Okay? Jesus doesn't have a bad attitude, but he did it. He did it. You can't keep the law. He did it. Don't tell me you can't keep the law. He did it. We need to change it because nobody can keep it? 5 and 6? Boom. Up in smoke. Lucifer's losing this game. 2/3 of the arguments are gone. There are still 3 on the board. You may wonder why that should be. Jesus was here, he was refuting the... Remember that statement said the complete refutation of Lucifer's charges against the character of God? Okay? That's true. What's interesting is these last... Well, really there's only 2 more charges. Right? God has been proven correct on 1 through 6. 7 and 8 are still pending. When 7 and 8 are proved, number 9 just disappears. Because number 9 says he was lying about all these others. When it's been proven that he wasn't lying about any of the first 8, then number 9 just disappeared. So 7 and 8 are the only 2 things that are still on the table. Why are they still on the table? God's law makes forgiveness impossible. Why is that even a challenge at all? I mean, God's the judge, right? Judges throw things out of court. You know, case dismissed. God's law doesn't work that way. God's law is not arbitrary. And the demonstration of that has to come through people who actually need forgiveness, which would be us. This is why that argument, that accusation still remains on the table. If Jesus' death had solved every accusation, well, the game ought to be over. Right? The moment you convince me that there's no more issues hanging in the wind yet to be resolved at the time of the crucifixion, at that moment I cease to be a Christian. Forget it. If God has allowed suffering to go on for 2,000 years for no good reason, I don't love him. And you shouldn't either. Little kids dying of starvation every day? Yeah. He just doesn't, yeah, we'll get around to that. We just don't give me that. If it was all resolved at the cross, it should have been all resolved at the cross. And if God's waiting, he's either waiting for a good reason, a defensible reason, or he's allowing a whole lot of suffering to go on needlessly. It better be a defensible reason. And it is. There's still 2 accusations pending. And they have to be demonstrated false through the power of God in the lives of those who need forgiveness. That tells me that there's something yet categorically different to be experienced in the realm of forgiveness. God has forgiven lots of people, right? All sorts of people. Mm-hmm. There's something yet to be experienced in the realm of forgiveness. In one sense, Jesus took care of all this, but in the sense of having to solve it through his people, he did not. Okay? We can see this most clearly by looking at one of Ellen White's common expressions. She describes Christ in a unique way. This is not a biblical, it's biblical, but the phrasing itself is not biblical. Okay? This is her own way of writing about this. She speaks of him as our substitute and surety. Now, we all know what a substitute is, right? Mm-hmm. Substitute is someone who takes place. But what's this surety thing? Well, the easiest way to figure that out is to look at her use of the word surety when it's not in connection with substitute, right? So it's pretty cool, some of the stuff that you can do with computers these days, you know? LOI writings, they're all computerized and all that sort of stuff, right? This idea of substitute and surety, she uses that expression more than 300 times in her regular published works, and another 130 times in the letters and manuscripts. So 430 times she speaks of Christ as our substitute and surety. But we can also, if you do the computer search, what you do is you write surety, not, quotes, substitute and surety. Right? You understand that? If you're familiar with how that thing. So you're looking for any use of the word surety, but not in a paragraph that has the compound phrase of substitute and surety. And it turns out that she says that, it's about 600 times or something like that, I don't remember. I don't find it. Anyhow, I think it's about 600 times. Now, so we're looking at the word surety, right? Well, surety is an English word, which means it can be a little complex. The dictionary gives us 7 definitions here. A certainty or an indubitableness, security, safety, foundation of stability, support, evidence, ratification, confirmation. Now, if you look at the first 4 definitions, these are guarantees in advance. Does that make sense? If you can follow my idea. Listen, I guarantee it. I guarantee it. It's going to happen. Okay? Now you look at 5 and 6, and they're more along the lines of buying insurance. Right? If your house burns down, we'll make it good. Right? You understand the idea? It's restoring. It's a surety that says you'll come out okay in the end because we can fix the problem. So when Ellen White talks of Christ as our substitute and surety, what's she mean? Well, let's read a few things here. Okay, here's my notes. There are 330 times that she says she uses surety without substitute surety. So here's some examples. God with us is the surety of our deliverance from sin, the assurance of our power to obey the law of heaven. The Redeemer of the world in the wilderness of temptation fought the battle upon the point of appetite in our behalf. As our surety, he overcame, thus making it possible for man to overcome in his name. Christ came to our world as man's surety, preparing the way for him, mankind, right, to gain victory by giving him moral power. Christ came to our world to be man's surety, to overcome in his behalf, to live for him a sinless. Whoa, just a second, look at this. Overcome in his behalf. That's like substitute, right? In his behalf, that's substitute. Christ came to our world to be man's surety, to overcome in his behalf, to live for him a sinless life, that in Christ's power we might obtain the victory over sin. It's not just we're going to fix the problem after it happens. We're going to fix the problem so it stops happening. It doesn't happen. Every eye in the unfallen universe is bent looking at those who profess to be Christ's followers. Stop there just a second. I don't remember the math. I did this one time. Let's just pretend that every universe, I think the figure I had, the average galaxy has about 600 million stars. And let's just pretend that every one of those stars has just one inhabited planet. That's, and how many galaxies are there? I forget. I don't remember. Let's just say there's 10 million galaxies or some crazy thing. Okay? So 10 million galaxies with 600 million stars in each galaxy, and one, maybe two, who knows, planets full of people, and they're all watching Earth. Okay, so you run the math, you get a bunch of zeros, you divide by 7 billion, you get a little fewer zeros, and that's how many people would be watching you. Not actually, that's how many planets worth of people would be watching you if it was all divided out evenly. But I frankly think that the statement here is true, that every eye in the unfallen universe is bent upon those who profess to be Christ's followers. That's a smaller number than 7 billion. You got a lot of folks watching you, is what I'm saying. Okay? If you want to feel a little peer pressure, if you want a little stage fright, just think about this. Every eye in the unfallen universe is looking at God's people. Okay? Next sentence. Here in this admirable world, an earnest warfare is going on. Good. A battle in which Christ, our substitute and surety, has engaged in our behalf and conquered. Now this strikes me as strange. There's a battle. Okay, that could be interesting. They're all watching. Christ has conquered. That's pretty cool. They should have watched that. You would think so. That's an exciting thing. But that's not what the sentence says. Or the statement says. The statement says they're watching us. Why are they watching us? The really interesting action happened 2,000 years ago. Why would they be watching us? Now we, Christ's purchased possession, must become soldiers of his cross and conquer in our own behalf, on our own account, through the power and wisdom given us from above. The influence of the cross of power is to vanquish every earthly and spiritual evil power. And we need to know the plan of the battle that we may work in harmony with Christ. They don't take ranked volunteers into the army and just drop them into the battlefield. I don't know, here's a gun, have a happy day. Short. But, you know, have as much fun as you can till you get killed, I guess, out there. Our substitute and surety is working toward the eventual demonstration through his people of a forgiveness which embraces not just, oh, it's okay, we'll throw it out of court, but a forgiveness that actually combines the meaning of the word. The word in New Testament for spiritual healing is sozo. When Gabriel said, "You shall name him Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins," it was sozo. You will name him sozo. But years later, when Jesus said, "Daughter, go in peace, your faith has made you well," made you well is sozo. Healing and forgiveness are the same word in Greek. It means to take something that's been damaged and fix it. So it fits for healing and forgiveness, both. But the point is that this forgiveness is not just the substitute kind of forgiveness that says, "It's okay, you blew it, but..." It's more than that. We are to conquer on our own behalf. This is why 7 and 8 are still on the board. Because God's people have not yet done that. I haven't done that. Pray as did Moses. "Lord, reveal to me thy glory." We need a revelation of the Father. A revelation of the goodness, the tenderness, the love of Jesus or fallen man will cause self to sink into nothingness and will exalt Jesus. Lift him up. The man of Calvary talk of Jesus and his matchless love. There is where many who present the truth fail. They talk doctrines, but do not dwell upon the matchless, forbearing love of Jesus. Doctrines are important, but they're only useful when you know the love of Jesus. It's kind of like conversion is seeing the character of the Father and saying, "I want that work done in my life." And then Jesus says, "Oh, by the way, here's some stuff that's important for you to know. If that's what you want, here's some doctrines. Follow this stuff out. It'll help you become like Christ." That's what the doctrines do. If we're not converted, if we haven't seen the character of the Father, if we haven't let that change our hearts, if we haven't let that draw us and inspire in our own hearts a desire, "I want to be like that," the doctrines won't do us a bit of good. It's nice to know that dead people are dead. It's important to know that. Because it's a deception in the war that is going to come with greater force in the future. We need to know that. We need to be forewarned. So he's told us that. But you know what? That's not going to save you. The knowledge of the Father and the surrender to the Spirit of the Lord is what saves you. The doctrines help prevent you from being lost. They don't save you. Does it make sense? I'm done. I'm sorry. Let's bow our heads. Father, we would pray as did Moses. Show us your glory. Not so much that it would destroy us, please, thank you, but so much that it would cause us to grow. We thank you for the privilege, the high honor that has been shown our race, that we would be deemed important enough to go to all this trouble. We thank you that you have fought the battle for us, and that you have honored us, you have promised to us the strength, the wisdom, that in whatever way it's to be done, that we can fight those battles on our own behalf now, on our own account. That we can demonstrate, that you can demonstrate through us, that your law is not arbitrary, that forgiveness is not impossible, and that the slate might be cleared, the accusations refuted, and that peace might once again reign in the universe. We pray that this end will come soon. In Jesus' name, amen.